Hey there, and welcome to another video. One day I was surfing the internet, like one does, when I saw this little guy. So I scavenged the internet to find as many reference images as I could, but there was not a whole lot out there, mostly just screenshots from the game trailer, so I made do with what I had and hope for the best. Anyways, let's get started. First, I'll make an armature for the head. I'll add clay to make the top of the muzzle and some more at the bottom to make the lower jaw. I carve out the mouth to make its smile more defined. The shape of its head really reminds me of King Dedede. Let's add a tongue. And I'll add some tiny fangs on both sides of the mouth. I'll make a little tiny nose. Then it's in the oven, so the work I've done so far won't get squished while I work on the hair. I'll start with the bangs. And to recreate the rest of Growlithe's hairstyle, I'll roughly build up the clay around the head, then refine the shape until I'm happy with it. Boop boop. I then sculpted 2 ears that I'll attach on both sides of the head. To finish off the hair, I'll add a bit more clay to make the sideburns more poofy. And then I'll add Growlithe's little unicorn horn. With Growlithe's head done, let's move on to the body. The body is basically shaped like a 4-legged egg, so let's do that. I'll carve a line in the clay to make the fold of the leg. The egg wasn't round enough, so I added a bit more clay on the back. I'm going for a thicker and rounder look, like this design from the 90s. The shape of the egg looks much better. Now, let's make 2 cylinders for the front legs. I'm squeezing the end of the cylinder to make it sort of paw shape, I guess. And once I was happy with the shape, I'll trim the legs a bit before attaching them to the rest of the body. I changed my mind at this point and decided to change the position of the right leg so it would stick up straight instead. The body is pretty much done, so let's move on to the neck poof? Neck beard? I really don't know what to call it. I started by making 3 balls of clay and will carve out some swirls into each of them. Until they look like the airbender symbol. I then roll a thick piece of clay. I'll poke 3 holes at the bottom to insert the swirls. I'll then very carefully blend the clay together. That looks pretty good, but let's add a bit more clay to make it thicker. I trimmed the sides a bit so it would fit better on the body, and I'll also make sure the head fits nicely. All that Growlithe needs now is a tail. I'll build up the shape of the tail with clay, and when I was happy with it, I carved swirly lines into the clay. The cling film helps to carve nice and clean lines, but it still works fine without it. I'll use a toothpick to connect the tail to the body, but I will bake both pieces separately so it will be easier to paint. And while Growlithe is in the oven, let's make a Voltorb. I made a ball, and to carve a straight and continuous line in the clay, I used some thread. Then I made a paper template for the eyes. I pressed the paper in the clay so it would make a little indent, then went over it with a needle tool. I'll do the exact same thing for the other eye. I'll gently press into the clay to create an indent for the eye socket. Then I made another paper template for the eyebrow piece. I'll use the template to trim the clay as a guide, and I'll spread a bit of Sculpey bacon bond and stick the eyebrow piece on top. Let's poke a hole at the top, and we're done sculpting Voltorb. Before painting, let's sand all the pieces real quick. This step is totally optional, I just find that it makes the end product a lot nicer. Also, always wear a mask when sanding polymer clay because you don't want that plastic dust into your lungs. When I was done sanding, I added the claws on the front paws. Let's bake it one last time before moving on to painting. I'll start by painting the base colors on Voltorb. The bottom part has a wooden texture, and to replicate that, I'll use an old crusty brush. I'll put a tiny amount of paint on my brush and lightly pass over the bottom part to create textured lines. I clean up the texture a bit with some lighter paint, and I think it looks pretty nice. I drew the eyes on with a pencil first, then I'll go over it with some black paint. Ah, look at it! It looks so happy! Let's put it aside to paint Growlithe. While I do that, maybe now would be a good time to give this video a like, or maybe even consider subscribing. I'm pretty excited about Pokemon Legends Arceus. It looks very different from the other Pokemon games, and I really look forward to playing it. I'll probably make more Pokemon videos in the future, so feel free to leave a comment if you have any suggestions. Anyways, let's get back to the painting. I just need to paint the black stripes on the body. And let's finish with this little spot on the front paw. While the paint is drying, let's make the base. I'll use a scrap of foam core board and cut it into a circle. I will then spread a mixture of white glue, modeling paste, and fake grass on the foam core. It's almost like icing a cake, except the icing looks like coleslaw. Once the coleslaw is spread evenly on the base, I'll cover it with cling film. I'll press the Pokemon in the spots I want them to be. This will leave an indent and will create the illusion that the grass is a bit deeper than it is. Then I will take the cling film off and leave it to dry for 24 hours. I'll take a bit of acrylic paint and dab a few different shades of green on the grass to give it more dimension. Now's the time to glue Growlithe together. I'm using super glue and it takes about 30 seconds to set, so I made sure to hold the piece tightly in place. Now let's glue the Pokemon onto the base. I wanted to make it look like Voltorb is being playful but also a bit annoying, and Growlithe is just like, please go away. I sculpted these tiny adorable flowers off camera and I'll glue them to the base as well. It was a bit of a struggle, but I still managed to get them all on. And that's it. Let's move on to the glamour shots. Thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.